Well, good morning. I'm King County Executive Dow Constantine. I wanted to be here today at Fair Start because in many ways that's what our King County Reduced Fare program is all about, a fair start. In March, we will make King County Metro only the second major transit agency in the United States to offer a reduced rate for lower income residents. It's the right thing to do because creating access to affordable, reliable public transportation creates opportunity. It's how people get to a university or a community college or a trade school to advance their careers. It's how they get to that higher paying job that may be miles away. It's how we stay connected as a community. It is even more critical today as the cost of housing in our region continues to rise and as we continue to raise bus fares to keep people moving. By next March, we will have raised fares 5 times since 2008, and the off-peak fare will have doubled. To keep public transit affordable, I proposed a fare of $1.50 for those at 200% of the federal poverty level or below, as recommended by an advisory committee, and the County Council adopted it. We recently received the recommendations of an independent task force that carefully reviewed our plans for implementation and provided helpful recommendations, and some of the members of our low-income fare task force are here today with me. We will use the ORCA card system as the foundation for the reduced fare program. And I've instructed Metro to work with our public health department, which was so successful in engaging lower income residents during the national health care enrollment to administer this important program. See, public health will help Metro. They'll help coordinate a countywide network of agencies that will do several things. They'll reach out to those who are not already signed up for other programs, and to the working poor and those who are not connected to services. They will verify income eligibility for the new fare, and then they will help us distribute the cards. Very soon, we will send out a request for proposals from agencies and nonprofits who want to partner with us in this effort. Because we are only the second major agency in the nation to offer such a program, there's really not much of a roadmap. We will find out together how many will sign up. It could be 40,000, but it could be as many as 100,000 or more. We'll find out how long it takes to process the applications. We will not share information from applicants with immigration authorities. After the launch, as this task force noted, we will no doubt have to make refinements. That includes making sure that we can verify documents that riders submit without making the application process so cumbersome that it pushes people away who really need transit the most. And this will require an extraordinary amount of effort in multiple departments and divisions and nonprofits and service providers. But it will deliver tangible results, and it will have an immediate positive impact on the lives of many people in our communities. This is how we turn our commitment to social equity into action. I want to acknowledge the leadership of 2 members of the County Council in particular, Councilmember Larry Gossett and Councilmember Dave Upthegrove. They both wanted to be here today but were unable to. In fact, Councilmember Upthegrove is out of the country on a long planned trip, but we appreciate their contributions. And I want to thank the members of this independent task force who donated their time and expertise. Several are with us today. Kathy Brash with the King County Women's Advisory Board, Dan Wise with Catholic Community Services, Michael Heinisch of the South King Council of Human Services, Lynn Moody of the Eastside Human Services Forum, and Allison Eisinger, Director of the Seattle-King County Coalition on Homelessness, and a member of the Seattle Human Services Coalition. I'd like to ask Allison to come to the microphone and share her thoughts.
Thank you very much, Executive Constantine. I'm just going to speak very briefly and express my tremendous sense of pride in our community that we are taking what is truly an innovative and substantial step towards greater equity in our community with this implementation of a low-income fare. I had the privilege of serving on the initial task force to make the recommendations about putting such a fare into place for our region's metro service. And I also had the privilege of serving on this most recent task force to take a look at the implementation plans. What I think I want to express is my 100% confidence in the fact that the staff of Metro and of King County see this as an extraordinary opportunity to do good progressive public policy that benefits tens of thousands of our neighbors and the community as a whole, and to get it right. So I look forward very much to working with the Public Health Department and Metro and King County to make sure that our implementation plan is robust, that there is terrific outreach to all of the different people in our community who can benefit from this fare, and that we will make course corrections along the way, which we all know will be necessary. I know that the eyes of many transit advocates and human services advocates and community advocates all around this country are on King County. We have received calls from all over the country essentially saying, how the heck did you decide to do this in King County? And I think the answer is that we have residents, community organizations, government representatives, and electeds who see that good public policy that expands access is a possibility, and that's what we're about to launch. Thank you.
And now let's hear from Dan Wise, the Division Director at Catholic Community Services.
Thank you. Catholic Community Services serves approximately 30,000 low-income people at over 60 programs located all throughout King County. Every day, we help thousands of people look for jobs, find a place to live, and reunite with their families. Reliable, affordable public transportation is a crucial resource in our community. It is a lifeline to people living in poverty trying to survive. King County Metro helps our clients get to job interviews, pick up their kids from daycare, and carry their groceries home. Recently, I had the opportunity to offer a part-time job to a woman who was living in one of our shelters, and she had just managed to find a new apartment. She worked so hard to rebuild her life and get off the streets. Her new home is in Kent, and the job I had to offer is in Seattle. And thanks mostly to Metro, she was able to say yes because she knew she could get to work every day. She shows up on time every day smiling, and she's so happy and relieved to be working again. I hope that someday we'll be able to offer her a full-time position with our agency. But for now, the opportunity of a low-income fare would help her tremendously. Rent, food, and transportation. These are the expenses that folks in poverty are trying so desperately to cover every month. I applaud the leadership of Executive Constantine and Councilmember Up the Grove and Councilmember Gossett in facilitating the work of the task force and ultimately in implementing this low-income fare.
Thank you, Dan. And once again, thank you to our task force members for all the many hours that they contributed to helping with this effort and helping the county find the best way forward. And now we'd be happy to take any questions you might have.
Yeah, Ron Munis, Paragraph 7. How does the county justify the low fare with routes being cut, budget, revenue problem?
Right. The question is, how does this fit with the current proposals to reduce service in order to align with our revenues? Well, this is, first of all, in many ways, a response to something that is intended to preserve service, and that is the continued increases in fares. Metro, as I said, has increased fares, will be now 5 times since 2008, and the off-peak fare will have doubled. Our fares are among the highest in the country. And that's okay for those of us who can afford it. We can help pay our share of that part of the transportation system. But for a lot of folks in our community, Metro is really their only way around. And we need to make sure that even as we're raising fares to bring in more revenue, we're not excluding people who need this to get to that first rung on the economic ladder.
What do you say to the low-income people who would be serviced by routes that are going to be cut?
Well, clearly, everyone is concerned about the loss of routes that are lifelines for people in this county. And we're doing our best to continue to find ways to preserve that kind of lifeline service. The fact is that a lot of this conversation around the low-income fare got started when it became necessary for us to eliminate the free ride zone in downtown Seattle. We talked to folks and they said, how are those with very low incomes, for example, going to be able to get to the services they need or get to that job interview? And we said, you know, this is not just a question for downtown Seattle, this is a question for our entire service area. And if we're going to ask that question, we should ask, what can we do for all the people in this county who are of very low means to make sure they have the mobility they need to improve their lives? And today we've arrived at what we think is a solution to that question.
$7 to $9 million that you guys are projecting in losing revenue because of this option. Where is that coming from, and is that meaning more cuts in the future?
No, that was already factored into the numbers that we announced several months ago, because this low-income fare is a policy that had been adopted by the county council already. I can tell you that the addition of folks to our transit system is an economic good that will help our economy more broadly. It helps people get back on their feet to be able to sustain themselves and get jobs. And ultimately, although it may be outside of the budget of the transit system, it helps overall the reduction of demand for services in government services in the community. So on balance, it's a very good investment. And it's consistent with our policy that we want this to be a community that has economic diversity. It can't be, like some places in this country have become, a place where you really have to be upper middle class or wealthy in order to be able to participate in the society. I was raised in a Seattle that was working class, that was a place that had opportunities for everyone, regardless of how much money their parents had. And I think that we in the county, in the city of Seattle, and the leaders generally around this county have made a commitment that we want to continue to be that kind of place. And to do that, we need to make some adjustments, right? Things have become more expensive. Housing's more expensive. Transportation's more expensive. And this is one way in which King County is trying to address those challenges.
How do other transit agencies achieve the same goal? I'm just wondering if this is such a good idea, why others don't have something similar.
Well, a lot of transit agencies actually have lower fares than Metro Transit has, so I would say that's the primary way. I think some of our transit professionals who are here in the room with us might be able to share their observations from other major agencies around the country.
This overlaps with disabled senior student fare. Is Metro someday soon to be going to be needs testing the seniors so that they have to show low income status to get a $1.50 ride?
Yeah, that question comes up a lot. Fare differentiation based on status other than income, on age, for example. There are policy reasons why we want to make sure seniors are encouraged to take the bus, just as we want to make sure youth are encouraged to take the bus. But I think it's a fair conversation. It's not one that we have, teed up to happen in the immediate future. Are there others?
Yeah, perhaps it's in the minutia in there.
Sure.
I haven't got to forgive me, but with the fare increase and the going on at the same time as the lower fare, has anyone processed the math, and how does that come out? The projections? Do they offset, or are we talking about a loss?
No, it's certainly not a loss, but I think that some of our transit professionals can answer that once we finish this part of the conversation.
And the second part of that question, I guess, is, or are we really talking about opportunity cost here, lost if we don't arrive at this point?
Well, that's, I was alluding to that earlier, that in order for our society to be successful, in order for us to have fewer people relying on services and having people get back on their feet and ultimately contribute tax money back into the public coffers, we have to provide the infrastructure. And buses are infrastructure. And in this case, making sure that those with very low income still can get around is part of the provision of that infrastructure. So this is that kind of investment, and ultimately is going to provide economic benefits for our society. Thanks, and, oh no, go ahead.
As far as the function of this, a few months ago, Metro staff were conjecturing that it would be really simple to get the low-income card. You would just show that you have a food stamp card, and the criteria would be the same.
Yeah.
It sounds like things are getting more complicated with RPs and administrators. Why couldn't somebody just simply show a food stamp card for that to be the necessary and sufficient qualification for the orphan card?
Well, first of all, we've made the qualification, we've made the income level the same as for other programs like food stamps. So it will be, the proof will be portable across programs. Jerry from Public Health is here and can answer some more of those kinds of questions, but part of the goal is to not have it be cumbersome, not have it be onerous and expensive to process, to have it be clear and reliable verification, but also quick and efficient. And I think that by working with public health, not trying to create something from whole cloth within Metro, but working with an agency that has already done a lot of this kind of work, we're going to be able to get a lot of efficiencies. And I think that not just public health, but some of their nonprofit partners in the community do a lot of this kind of work too. And yes, go ahead.
I'm going to ask, so this is following the recommendation of the task force for the lower fare option. Metro is a service provided to the taxpayers, but what kind of stress is this putting on Metro itself, having to introduce this, following that recommendation?
Well, this is part of what we do. Our job is to move people, and we're finding that our increasing fares, are now relatively quite high fares, are starting to squeeze some folks out of transit. And so is it difficult? Yes, everything we do is difficult. It requires a lot of planning, a lot of hard work by a lot of smart people. But it's the right thing to do, and it's a smart thing to do, and it's consistent with Metro's mission. Thanks, Frank. So, folks are available to answer your questions individually. Task force, transit professionals, public health professionals, I thank you very much for being here today.